Hi, I'm Cameron and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be looking today at the Bolero Plug and Play or the standalone system. We're going to look at the basic configuration and a little bit of basic troubleshooting with this system. It should have arrived already configured, ready to go out of the box, but of course it's always possible that you want to make some changes, for example changing the names of some belt packs or reassigning some party lines, or sending a program input to the belt packs. So this session is going to be about half an hour and we'll cover both of those topics there. So the first thing we're going to look at though is how to actually connect to the UI and how we make all of this work. So the first thing you'll notice is that I've actually connected here through the NSA, and you'll see this cable here will go up to the antenna and the other cable here is going off to my computer. If I have a look on the front of the antenna over here, you'll see that there's an IP address over here that you can then log into and then go to your computer and browse directly to that, and you'll come directly to the Bolero screen, which is this one right here. Whoops, there we go. So this is what you'll see when you first log in. The NSA doesn't have to have its own IP address. You can just leave it as is, and like you can see here, it's just connected directly through the thing. It's got a built-in switch, so you can use either of those ports as well. It's not like one port is for the NSA and the other one is for the antenna. You want to make sure, of course, that your computer is set to the same IP address or the same network range as the antenna, so you can connect to it. But once you've done that, simple as this, you just punch that IP address up into the top here, and it will show up on the screen. So how does the web UI work? So it's set up like a normal web page. You basically just point and click and you'll see things hovering over that'll let you know what you're looking at. So each device up the top here has its own tab, so we can see antenna, devices, belt packs, profiles, party lines, audio channels, triggers and system logs. The I/O devices is where you will configure your NSAs. Of course you can have multiple NSAs in a single network, so that's always good to know. Belt packs, this is where we can configure belt packs. That should be pretty obvious. Profiles we won't look at today, but profiles are a way that you can set a bulk configuration for lots of belt packs. Or for example, you might have lighting and audio, which are different profiles, which may have different keys. Party lines, where we set up those conversation groups. In an artist system, they'd be called a conference, but the party line is how people will talk to each other in multiple groups. Audio channels is where we configure the ins and outs from the NSA, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. Triggers we won't touch today either, but triggers are our GPIs in and out of the system. For example, if you wanted to fire off some cue lights, or potentially if you wanted to connect to a radio system and then trigger off that. And then lastly, system logs, which is good for troubleshooting and so on and so forth. So the main ones for us today are going to be belt packs, party lines and audio channels, because this is where the main configurations of your features are. So to enter any menu, you'll see up here there's a plus. If I were to refresh the page, it would actually come in and it would be locked here. If I want to unlock that, I click on the lock symbol and I'll need to enter the admin pin, which by default is 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And I'm not going to save that. You'll see now that that's switched to a plus, and now I'm in edit mode. So I'm allowed to now to go in there and make some changes. When I say edit, I'll either say edit mode or I'll say the pencil. They both mean the same thing. That's this little pencil looking mark here on the icon on the side here. So if I say edit or click on the pencil, that's what I mean there. You can also, in some areas, for example in the belt packs, you can do a direct edit and you can directly edit names and such from that screen rather than having to go into edit mode. But we'll turn that off for now. Cool. So let's change a few of those features of your system. So the first thing usually you might want to do is actually assign some names to different belt packs. So again, we're already here, but you can click on the belt packs tab. And if it wasn't unlocked, this is where you'd unlock it now. So we want to go into the edit mode for this first belt pack here. You'll see when we click the pencil, this whole UI comes up with all the different settings that are available for that belt pack. You'll also notice that it also has tabs up the top here for general, audio, keys, so on and so forth. But for now, all we want to do is change the name. So we're going to change this first belt pack to Stage Manager. And if we hit apply and close, let me just turn this on for you. If I go, you'll see here, if I'm looking at number 1, as soon as I hit apply and close on my computer, give me a moment to actually get to there, you'll see that up the top here, this has now changed to say Stage Manager. So I haven't had to do anything, I've just hit apply and close, and that has now gone away, has now changed. I can similarly go through each one of these packs here. I'm going to call the belt pack 2 the Assistant Stage Manager, or ASM. I'll call belt pack 3 Audio 1. Apply and close. And belt pack 4 I'm going to call Audio 2. Done. So again, if I switch across to now have a close look at those belt packs. Sorry, let me make that a little bit bigger for you. If I do that like that, there we go. So you'll now be able to see, I've got Audio 1 here, Audio 2, ASM, and the Stage Manager, which we saw before. Cool. So that's the simple way that we can change the name. It can have up to 12 characters, but at the moment we only support English characters. So if you try and add in a non-English character, for example, if I come up here and try and, instead of changing this from ASM, if I try and change that to Utai Kantoku, hang on, it helps if I Utai Kan, there he is at the top there. If I hit apply and close, the UI is going to let me do that. But if I go across to the belt pack now, you'll see I just get some question marks. So that's no good to anyone. So if you can, avoid using those kind of characters. Let me just switch him back to ASM. And we're done. So if you see those question marks, that's basically what it's saying, that somehow you've ended up putting a character in there that doesn't work with the system. Cool. So the next thing you might want to do, as we've seen on the belt packs, we can rename the belt packs, but you might want to rename the party lines. Now, as you will see on the belt packs, as you get them by default, they're basically just saying party line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's all well and good. You can always say to people, oh, okay, we can just talk on party line 4, but it might be a little bit nicer if you will change the names of those. So similarly, we can go into the pencil mode for each one of these party lines, and we can call maybe party line 1 the show call, or the main show party line. That's where everyone would talk. Party line 2 we might change to being a, let's call the audio loop. It would help if I learned how to spell. There we go. Apply, and you'll see as I'm making these changes, if I bring that guy in a little closer, we've already changed those names on the belt packs to show call and audio. As soon as I hit apply, it will change. So if I go down here and keep going down to party line 3, change this one to be lighting, apply. 4, we could be stage mechanics. And so on and so forth. So we might change 5 to, let's say, video. And it helps if I can click. And party line 6 will change to broadcast. Maybe it's a big enough show that they want to have a broadcast team in there as well. And you see already those keys, I haven't had to touch anything on the belt pack. They're all automatically updated from the antenna. Cool. So that's pretty simple. Again, you've got 12 characters to play with there, so that's a little bit more than other systems. It makes it very easy to know what you want to actually put on the keys, and also makes it very easy for the operators to know who they're talking to at any time, because those names are now pretty easy. But we still have the problem that all of our keys look exactly the same. All of our belt packs look exactly the same, and there's no privacy. For example, the audio guy can hear the lighting guys and vice versa, which may not be very useful in a stage environment. So let's now assign a couple of those keys. If we go across to belt packs, Here we can see that we can go into each individual party line, each individual belt pack here. Now the system can handle up to 12 of these party lines, so the 6 that we just made there don't have to limit your system. You could add another 6 in there. For example, we might have a follow spot show loop, which only follow spots people can talk on. You might have 2 or 3 for audio, for example, front of house audio versus monitors audio, and they're all available here. But to use those, we need to change the keys. So how do we change the keys? Well, it's quite simple. If I go into edit mode for the stage manager, you'll see here there is a tab called keys. So you'll see here each key, oh, that's no good. There we go, we're back. That's the beauty of doing things live. So here we go on the keys, you can see each key here, and I can see it's going to try and talk in auto mode to the show call. And then over here, key 2 is going to talk to audio, and those are those party lines that we've just renamed. You can also see the reply key down the bottom, which is momentary. The first thing you might want to do is change the mode of the keys. If we click on the mode tab, you'll see that there's 3 different modes. There's momentary, which is a push to talk. If I'm pushing the button, I'm talking. If I release, I'm not talking. Next one down is latching. Latching is if I press the button once, it'll stay latched on, and I press it again to turn it off. And auto is a mix of the two. If I do a quick touch on the key, it will latch, but if I press and hold it for more than a second or so, it will treat it as if it's a momentary, so when I release, it'll turn it off. As a general rule, I try and use momentary for everything. This prevents people latching on and having conversations that they don't want out in the rest of the world, ending up all over the comms system. But of course, there are some people who may want latching. For example, a stage manager might want to have a latching key there that's listening to the program feed, for example. Or you might have a stage manager or an ASM who wants to talk continuously whilst they're using their hands, or a flyman, for example, who needs to use their hands. So in that case, latching is appropriate. So we'll leave those there in auto mode, but what we might do here is we will say, let's, instead of talking to the audio here, let's talk on key 2 directly to the ASM. So if I go to the destination here, you'll see I have 3 different parts of the menu. I have party lines, I have belt packs, and I have audio channels. In the party lines, you'll see the 6 party lines that were created before, and of course, if we had more, they would be listed here. But we can also talk directly to a belt pack. So if I switch this across here to ASM, that key now isn't going to talk to the audio party line, it's going to talk directly to the ASM. If I scroll down and hit apply and close, and go back to here, you'll see that on my Stage Manager pack, I now have ASM on that top right key there, not audio, which I do on everyone else's pack. Simple as that. Okay, so we've seen how to rename belt packs, rename party lines, but what we haven't dealt with though is the big beastie, the NSA 002. So you can think of the NSA 002 as an analog to AES-67 converter. In fact, you can actually use it as an AES-67 converter in a different mode. But for now, let's just think of it as the way to get audio in and out of the system. Again, your NSA should come pre-configured, but if that's not the case, we'll have a look at that later and show you a couple of the different modes there. The most common use of NSA 002 is to use it as a connection between the wireless system and a wired system, for example, an ASL party line system there. Those are all configured in 4 wires. And the way we get to those is we go over here to the audio channels tab. So I can see here automatically that I've got the 6 party line, the 6 audio inputs and outputs from the NSA, and they're pre-connected here and to 1 to 6. If I go into edit mode here, I'll now say what it's actually doing, and it will say here on always, it's going to be talking to the show call. So similar to the belt pack, if I push the number 1 key on any of those belt packs, it's going to talk to that show call conference, to that party line. Any audio that comes in on input 1 of the NSA is going to go to all of those belt packs. And similarly, if anyone talks on the belt pack, that's going to go out that output 1. And that's how we would connect that there. Now, you can, if you want, add more functions in here. So you could say, for example, talk to two party lines, to show call and to audio at the same time. However, that's got the possibility of being a bit confusing because you wouldn't know who you're actually talking to if you're on the wireless system or the wired system when you actually press that out there. So let's delete that for now. And I would say in most cases you'd only want to ever have one talk command on your always on for each one of your channels. If we wanted to, we could move this around. For example, if we didn't want to have a show call, or if we wanted to have a connect this one to lighting, it's just as simple as moving that destination to lighting, or to similarly any of the belt packs. Or additionally, you could connect it to any of the audio channels and use it as like a multiplier between two different party line systems. But we'll leave that on show call for now. But what if we want to connect to something that isn't an intercom system? For example, a program input. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to reconfigure the NSA's inputs and outputs. So we're going to go here into the I/O devices tab, go across to edit mode, and then drop down to pair 5 here. And where it says type 4-wire, we're going to change that to a 4-wire split. And you'll now see, instead of saying 4-wire name, which I can give here, it's going to say input name and output name. Similar to the belt packs, over here we can rename things. So I'm going to rename this guy here to program. And I'm going to change the next one underneath it to stage and outs, which will become important in a second. So apply and close. There's nothing to see on the belt packs because we haven't actually changed any of those, any of the labels on the keys as yet. To do a program feed, in the audio channels, you'll now see that channel number 5 is split into two. It says program and stage announce. On this end, I don't need to do anything. You'll see that I also have a fewer number of options here because I don't have the full 4-wire. I don't have the input and the output. This is just the input. But I'm not going to do anything here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the belt packs and go to edit the stage manager. And because they don't need to talk to lighting, what I'm going to do is change that from a talk function to a listen function. I'm going to set the mode to latching because we want to always listen. It will be something that we turn on or off. And I'm going to set the destination to be the program, which I can see here under audio channels and input audio channels, separate to the 4-wire channels. So again, I'm going to hit program here. If I turn on my belt packs here and hold this guy here so you can see what's going on. Once I hit apply and close, you'll see that lighting will switch across to program. And the light there has gone green as opposed to yellow, so I can see that I'm actually listening to something. Similarly, you might want to have a stage announce. For example, you might have a paging speaker back of house where your stage manager can talk to talent. That talent might want to have announcements to come up to stage or something similar like that, and the stage manager will want to make those calls. Okay, so we've set the program on the audio end. Now we're going to change the stage manager's key. So we go over to the stage manager, we'll hit edit, and we'll come over here to talk 3 because they don't need to talk to lighting. We're going to set that over to listen. So on the listen, we want to make that latching because the listen is going to be something we turn on and off, and we're going to leave it running the whole time. And what we want to listen to is not a belt pack or a party line, but the audio channel. And you'll see over here we have an input audio channel separate to the 4 wires, which is now named program. So I can click that, and as soon as I hit apply and OK on my screen, scroll down here, you'll see that the lighting changes into program. You also see that the key color, if I go, let me get rid of that and go like that, you see that the key color has now gone from yellow to green to indicate that it's now a listen key rather than a talk. And if I press number 3 here, you'll hear that I can hear the program volume and change this here. or I can scroll down to that program individually and just turn the program volume down. So that's a good way to get your show program into the system so that your users can listen to that if they need to. The next thing you might want to do is have a stage announce. Now, stage announce is where a stage manager or ASM would want to be talking out into the rest of the system. For example, a paging speaker backstage. It could be an announcement system, or it could be a front of house announcement, for example, to tell the audience to take their seats. To do that, we still use the NSA, but what we're going to do is go into the audio channels before, and we've already called that stage announce. Now, in that part, we don't need to do anything either, but we'll just have a quick look at that stage announce, and you'll see that like the program feed, it's got fewer commands than the other systems, but you do have a few more here. You do have the trigger and you do have the on talk. We won't use those this time, but what we'll do is we'll go back to the backpacks, and let's give the ASM the ability to call that, that paging system. So we'll go here to say key 4. We're going to still use a talk. We're definitely going to set that to momentary because we don't want to have someone accidentally latching onto the stage announce and continually talking over the back of house paging speaker. And now the destination, again, we go down to audio channels, and you'll see now we have output channels and stage announce. Apply and close. Now what we're going to do here is plug this into the switcher, and if I plug that into output 5 here, and you'll see on the stage manager's thing, we have number 4, which says stage announce. What I'm going to do, if all works well, is I will turn this on, and I'm going to turn off the microphone, the main microphone, and I'm now going to switch across to the stage announce as the input to the system. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Shoot. Cut. Forgot to turn that on. Audio, where's the audio? Audio mixer. Set. XLR on. Oh, shoot, it is on. Okay. Just roll that back to here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hit apply and close, and if I cut across now to the belt pack, you'll see that that says stage announce. Now to connect this up, you'll see that I've connected up audio 5 to the mixer that I have here. I'm going to turn off the mic and then try and talk to you via the belt pack. 1 2 1 2, and you'll see here now on the left channel you're hearing me directly from the belt pack. And to prove that, let me go across to here. You'll see here I am talking in here, and just a little bit of a scratch on the mic. You should hear that coming through. Okay, let me go back to the main mic and make that work. Okay, so that's a stage announce. So we've done stage announce, we've done listen to program, we've changed some names of the belt packs, and we've changed some names of the party lines. That is basically the majority of the functions that you'd ever have on a belt pack system, if it all works. Those features above will probably get you through every production you could ever think of, but there are a bunch of more advanced features that we had there that we left. So we'll leave those for now, and we'll come back to those in a later webinar. But like all technical systems, there's things that can go wrong with Bolero, so we need to do a bit of troubleshooting. So for the rest of this session, what we're going to look at is a few of those basic issues that you're going to encounter and how you could possibly resolve them. So the first one is the antenna IP configuration. You'll see, as I mentioned before, on the front of the antenna, there is the IP address, which is shown here on the bottom of the display here. Now, you need to have that on the same subnet as your computer if you need to make it work. But to change it, it's really quite simple. If I hit the red button in the middle, I go into menu mode. And you see at the top here, IP settings. Again, I press the red button, and you'll see here it gives me the full information. It tells me that I'm in static mode, here's the IP address, the gateway, and the net mask. If I want to change that, I hit enter again, and it's going to ask me for the admin pin. Now this is the same admin pin that you're going to have in the system. So for us it was 4 zeros, so I can go through there and do that. I hit continue, and now I can go in here and set those IP addresses. So if I wanted to, I can change the static address from 129 to, let's say, 139 and confirm. I have to set the net mask, which I want to be there, and for this time I'm not going to use a gateway. You'll see that the light goes orange to say that it's rebooting, and it's just a soft reset, and you would have heard then the vibration as the belt packs. There we go, so the belt packs are all reconnected. If I go back, this is now back, we've got the green light on, and so it's in normal mode. But if I switch across to my computer and try and make some changes, you'll find that it's going to start to... Okay. That's very strange. Did that actually take? Bizarre. That shouldn't be working. Okay.ちょっと編集しなくちゃいけない。これはなんかちょっとミスがあったから後でやるけど。So if I go 5, so you see that now it's gone green, which will indicate that it's that it has changed. But if I go back to my computer, you see now it's telling me no connection, because obviously we've changed the IP address. So I come up here, I go to the address bar and change that from 129 to 139. Enter, and boom, we're connected again. So if you need to change the IP address, that's all you have to do. I'm just going to quickly unlock the system so that we can get back into there. Cool. So that's the first thing that you'll have in the system. You can use ZeroConf or you can use DHCP if you want to, but it all comes down to what you actually need out of your system. Now, if we go to the NSA, we can find, I mentioned before, it has 2 modes. And you'll see up here, the first LED here under the mode is blue. This means it's in Bolero mode. The other mode that it does have is the AS67 to audio converter, which you can use with, say, an artist system or with anyone else's system. To switch those, I just press this mode button for 10 seconds, and you'll see after a while, it's going to go across and switch to purple. There we go. So you see now it's in that purple mode. It's now going to be active in AS67 to analog converter, but this means you can't use it as part of your part of your Bolero system. So if you ever come up and you can't find your NSA, if you go into your computer here, you'll find in the I/O devices that this is offline. You see that the light there has gone green, saying that it's not connected. If I hover over it, it'll say it's not connected. Basically, to get back to that, it's really quite simple. You just press and hold that button again for 10 seconds. Wait until it goes blue. There we go, almost. There we go. And you'll see that they've got these 2 lights underneath it, the configuration and network lights. The bottom lights, they'll both go sort of flashing for a couple of seconds, and then eventually they will both go green, and that means you're good to go. So you see the top one there now is searching for its configuration, the bottom one saying the network is okay, and they kind of flip backwards and forwards for about a minute, but once they're up and running, then they'll be working again, and we can test that with the program once they both go green. So you'll notice if I press the program up on here, nothing's actually coming through, but now that we're back in online mode and both of those lights are solid green, the system is ready to go and is completely functional. Cool, so those are the 2 main faults that you'll find with the hardware. If you want to go into the software, there's a couple of things that you are able to do in here that might be useful. The first one, oh, as a side note, you'll also notice that this is green. The first one you might want to do is save or load configurations. For example, I can come down here and save the entire net configuration, and you'll see it's now saved as Bolero Plug and Play in my Downloads folder. Similarly, I can load a configuration. So I can come up here and upload that net configuration from a folder that's on my computer, and that will then allow me to completely rewrite the names back into the system. The other thing you may want to do in times of great need is to do a full factory reset. So if I come up to, if I go into here, antenna, select an antenna, I can see there's factory reset here, or reboot selected antenna. Now it's very rare that you'll need to reboot, although it does sometimes happen. But there are times, of course, that you will need to do a factory reset, and that can be a good way of clearing out configuration, especially if you're working in, say, a rental company where you've been taking these devices out on the road a few times, or similarly, if you've got an additional antenna that's been rented off us or a third party, and you want to basically clear out the configuration to make sure it's not going to mess with yours. So you can factory reset each individual antenna, and that will completely wipe all the configuration. Remembering, of course, that all the configuration in Bolero is stored on the antenna, not on the belt packs or on the NSA. The last thing that you might need to do if you're in real trouble and you need a lot of help is we have the cog up here, and there is the diagnostics file export. If you select that, it'll list all the antenna that are in the system, and you can then set export. This will now say exporting diagnostic in process, and you'll see the status up here has changed to in process, and then it will download those files from each antenna. If you have a serious problem and you can't work it out by yourself, you can then send that to customerservice@readl.net. It should only take about 10 to 30 seconds per antenna, and then it will just download itself as a text file. So that really is the end of the webinar. We've gone through the basics of how to change the basic settings of the Bolero. We've seen the name changes, we've changed the belt pack names, we've changed the party line names, we've added in a program feed, we've added in a stage announce, and we've done a little bit of troubleshooting. So thanks for your time and attention, and after we wrap this up, we'll have time for questions on the chat. So thank you for your time, and see you next time.